Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the OMG show. Now, today I want to take some time and talk about average order value because, as you know, when we are running an online business, we want to make sure that number one, we're profitable and that we're bringing in a good amount of cash flow into the business, right? So, what we need to do is kind of make sure that we understand our metrics. And in the world of metrics, there's one that it kind of gets pushed around a lot, and that's average order value. So what average order value is pretty much, you look at your sales funnel, whether it's your upsells, your downsells, your order bumps, you take into account your conversions, and you figure out, out of 100 people that go through your process, what is going to be the average value of a particular order, right? So if you only have one product and you're selling that for $100, then your average order value is going to be, $100 essentially, right? But if you have order bumps, upsells, downsells, et cetera, you're going to have to look at your model, figure out the conversion rates, and then determine what that average order value is going to be. Now, this can kind of create a little trap, if you will, of you constantly trying to increase your average order value, which in a sense is a good way to generate more profit for your business. However, there is another metric that I really want you to be I really want you to focus on more so, and that is your customer acquisition cost. Now, when it comes to your online marketing, it's a delicate balance between average order value and customer acquisition cost. Ideally, you want your average order value to be greater than or equal to your customer acquisition cost. If your average order value is greater than your customer acquisition cost, that means you're generating customers at profit. That means that you're making $100, but it's only costing you $25 to generate a customer, right? So you're taking in 75. If it costs you $25 to produce a $25 sale, then that means your average order value is equal to your customer acquisition cost, which means that you're generating customers for free. In either of these two scenarios, where your average order value is greater than or equal to your customer acquisition cost, that's going to allow you to scale. In fact, if you are running ads right now, and you're seeing that your average order value is significantly outpacing your customer acquisition cost, or it's at the same level, that means that you should be scaling, right? So increase the budget, duplicate the campaigns, whatever you have to do to scale, because you have a system that's producing for you at minimum a break even. Now, if customer acquisition cost is greater than your average order value, that's when you start to run into some troubles, especially if you don't have anything in the back end to ensure that you're going to be recouping those costs. So it's a way you can do it. It is possible, but this is kind of more of an advanced strategy, right? Especially if you have, like, for example, a membership platform, you might be okay losing money out in the beginning, as long as you know that the lifetime value of your customer is greater than your, customer acquisition cost. Okay. And so lifetime value is another metric we want to take a look at too. But for the purposes of this episode, it really comes down to average order value and customer acquisition cost. Now, ideally, what we're looking for, and the reason why I want to bring this to your attention, is because we're really trying to identify the margin, increase the margin between the two, right? We want to increase our profitability because, in my opinion, it's one of the best ways to scale your business. You can always create more stuff, but then there's always a challenge in terms of how to sell more stuff. More stuff means, more tech, more launches, more sales sequences, more everything else, right? But there's another way of going about it where we can increase the margin between average order value and customer acquisition cost without doing more stuff, but it's more so about fine-tuning, optimizing, and streamlining your process. And the way you do that is by trying to optimize your conversions. By doing that, you effectively decrease your customer acquisition cost. So, for example, back in the day, I was running this one funnel, and it was costing us about $25 to generate a new customer. Our average order value was about $68, and the customer acquisition cost was about 25. Right. So we were able to make money. We were able to scale. It was a nice funnel. We were able to pull in $50,000 to $70,000 a month doing that model. But then we were trying to figure out how we can optimize right, how we can streamline. And so, one way, especially for many beginner entrepreneurs, to think about is, okay, well, we can offer more things to sell on the back end, right? Like sell through your email, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's a great way of going about it. But what we ended up doing was hyper focusing on the parts in our funnel where our conversions weren't exactly up to par. Right. So I believe at that time, our landing page was converting at around 55%. Our sales page was converting at 25%. But our checkout page was converting at around 8 to 10%, fairly low. So when I looked at our sales funnel, I looked at, okay, well, between all of our steps, between our landing page, our sales page, and our checkout page is really the area where we need to improve on the most. That's where we should focus on. And at the time, we were using Samcart as a tool to run our checkout, and we had all the bells and whistles, right? We had a bunch of information. So we collected first name, last name, email, billing, shipping address, all that kind of stuff. We had testimonials. We had the security badges. We had the 30-day money back guarantee. We had, the support email. We had testimonials, like I said, right? So it was, it looked legit. It looked great, but it was only converting at about 8%. So what we ended up doing was figuring out, okay, you know what? Let's start from scratch. Let's start something bare bones, right? And see what happens. So we eliminated, the billing and the shipping address because we were selling digital products, right? So we don't really need that information. So all we really needed was just like their first name, their email address, and then their credit card information. So we pretty much put that on there. We removed the testimonials. We kept the security badges, but we were able to go from about an 8 to 10% conversion on the checkout page to a 35% conversion rate on the checkout page, right? So we didn't increase our average order value. We didn't add more products. We didn't add another order bump or an upsell or a downsell or any of that. All we did was focused on optimizing our conversions. And we looked at the one step in our funnel that was essentially hurting us the most. And that became, the checkout page. So we went from an 8 to 10% conversion to about a 35% conversion, right? So not only were we, spending the same amount of money to get people to our funnel, but our budget, our money was actually more optimized because we were able to essentially cut the cost of generating our customer by 3, right? Give or take. So, we were able to get customers essentially 3 times cheaper because we focused on our conversion numbers, right? So we streamlined, we optimized the copy, we made it much more efficient, and boom, now our average order value was significantly higher than our customer acquisition cost, right? So much so that we were able to scale a whole lot faster. And it's one of the key reasons why we were able to build an email list of around 100,000 subscribers just by focusing on our conversions. So it's one of those things that, when you first start out with your online sales funnel, right, you think it's a one and done. And the reality is that, it takes a lot of work and effort to get your first sales funnel up. And once you get it going, it's not going to work perfectly 100% of the way, right? You might be able to generate leads, but they may not be buying, or you may be able to get them to your checkout page, but then they don't complete their order form or something like that, right? So you want to make sure that when you're implementing your sales funnel, you also plan for constant optimization, focusing on the copy, focusing on the offer, fine tuning all those small little details to maximize conversions. That way you don't have to start all over again or have to create more products to increase your average order value or any of that. It's much better for you, for the customer, because by focusing on your conversions, you simplify your funnel, right? You eliminate steps. And by eliminating steps, you eliminate drop-off points in those funnels, right? So more people can go through your funnel before they decide to click out or not partake. So by doing that, not only do you, make it easier for your customers, but you become a better business person and a smarter marketer, because now you start to really fine tune and pay attention to the things that actually matter to your market, right? The actual pain points, the benefits, the outcomes that they're looking for, right? The psychological triggers that are going to say, oh, wow, it's like you're in my head. That's where you want to be with your sales funnel. And that's when you start to get those really high, awesome conversions, right? Even from cold traffic. And so just imagine this: if you hyper focus your conversions for, and you can generate customers from cold traffic, just imagine what you'll be able to do with hot traffic, people who are already on your email list and everything like that, right? So yes, average order value is a super important metric that you should understand in your business, right? But it's not the only metric that you should be looking at in terms of scaling or growing, right? Your first inclination might be to create more stuff and offer more stuff to sell. But what might be a better route for you to take, a much easier, much simplified, and a much more effective use of your time, your effort, and your energy is by focusing on maximizing conversions so you decrease that customer acquisition cost. And by decreasing your customer acquisition cost, you end up increasing the margin, right, between average order value, your profitability, and your customer acquisition cost. And that is where you can have a lot more cash flow into your business so you can invest and more people to help you scale. You can invest in systems. You can, document your processes and things like that because you have that extra cash flow. It's one of the best things that you can do for your business is to optimize the process that turns, leads into customers, right? And again, if you can do this with cold traffic, you're going to do very well with hot traffic because they already know, like, and trust you. So when it comes to your funnel, when it comes to your business, right, and you're looking at your sales funnel, understand what your average order value is, right? So look at, all the steps and look at, what you're selling between order bumps, upsells, initial offers, all that kind of stuff. Figure out the conversion rates. And if you don't know, if you're just starting, pick conservatively, right? So maybe start with 10% and see what that does for you. If you want to go lower, start with 5% and see what that does for you, right? You just need a starting point. You just need to be able to visualize what is happening. Okay. So figure out what your average order value is and then determine what your customer acquisition cost needs to be. And you can do all of this before you even start running ads or using any kind of paid traffic. You can, put it on paper. And then once you make it go live, you start to compare what reality is to what you essentially hypothesized, right? So it's a much more scientific way of going about it. But ultimately, we're understanding the two important metrics that are going to affect your business, which is average order value, but more importantly, your customer acquisition cost. And it's all about trying to find, or getting your customers cheaper than they're worth, right? If a new customer is worth $100 to you, if you can go from $50 customer acquisition cost to $25 acquisition cost, you just gave yourself another $25 per customer, which you can use to, again, scale or grow your business rapidly. All right. If you want more details like this, it's all inside of my profitable paid traffic funnel blueprint, which you can get at www.oscarmgarcia.com/powerpack. It goes into more detail about how to actually implement an effective funnel for yourself and keeps in mind those two important metrics you need for your business. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one.